With regard to the SAA Takatso deal, I noted what the parliamentary or the portfolio committee said, and of course, things have to be done openly and transparently and all that. There are some times when transactions are done, so that they don't disturb the closure of those transactions. There are certain things that, as said, should be communicated at certain times. And in this regard, I don't think that the absence of whatever information that they needed is something that testifies to an underhand process, a devious process that's underway. I think the minister has been fairly straightforward in articulating the various broad parameters of the transaction. But I would say to the minister, go and meet the committee and outline to the committee the various issues that they are concerned about. Because there's nothing to hide, the minister should be able to go and explain. And if certain things are so confidential as to lead to the collapse of the transaction, it should be said so, because that's what often happens. People sign non-disclosure agreements, they sign confidential agreements, but we have to say that this is a public asset. So there's quite a bit of information that needs to be put on the table. And I don't believe and refuse to believe and will not allow it that there should be underhand type of details that make people so suspicious. So information to the extent that it complies with the various agreements that have been reached should be put on the table. So I'll encourage the minister to go and engage with that committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade President. I will just prioritize a woman over there, Kenny, and then I saw other colleagues who wish to speak. I'll come this way. Can I start with yourself, Kenny?
Okay, thank you, Sis Mahlenge. It's Kenny Mapanga from SABC News. I would like to get a research response on the Human Sciences Research Council. They looked at the youth intention and perceptions ahead of the 2024 polls. And if you look at the youth distrust in the core political institutions, it's the highest in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. And if I can give you an example, in the national government, it starts at 83% in KZN and 80% in Gauteng. And then when they looked at the three main reasons why the youth does not intend to vote, and the most cited is the party performance, that is the ANC's party performance, poor government performance, a lack of change, service delivery, and then there's that big factor of disillusionment, saying that it makes no difference for them to vote. How does the ANC intend to tackle this perception among the youth in the 2024 polls?
Thank you very much, SABC. Then over to Power.
Good day, guys. Kosnati Shazi from Power FM News. Firstly, an honor to finally speak to you, Mr. President. So at the conclusion of the 55th National Conference in Nasrec, organizational renewal was of top priority for the African National Congress. Last week, the ANC SG, Fikile Mbalula, hosted a press briefing at Luthuli House in which he called for some members of the ANC Veterans League to stop decampaigning the organization and use appropriate channels to express how they feel. I think a day later or 24 hours later, Deputy President of the Youth League, Umavuso Msimang, tendered his resignation. On the 12th of December, the ANC SG met with Umavuso and he since withdrew his resignation. So my question to you, Mr. President, the handling of this matter, the handling of this, is this part of organization renewal? Because you did mention that the ANC is striving for victory and all the leagues are strong. In July, you guys elected new leadership for the Youth League, the Women's League, and the Veterans League. So the handling of those public spats between the Veterans League and the mother body, was that properly handled in your opinion? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take the third question so that we save time. This is set for an hour, so I'm counting, and I think we do need to make it count. So I'm going to take, is it yourself, Norman? Or Siamtanda? Yes, please go ahead.
Siamtanda Kapa from News 24. Mr. President, I know that it's been said that you're not going to make the performance assessments of your ministers public. You've just spoken now about information being put on the table with regards to SAA. Are you happy with the performance of your ministers and deputy ministers? Could you please just...
Thank you very much. May I stretch yourself, President, a bit? Because I just see a number of hands. Maybe take one last one. My brother.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Thank you so much for this session. You gave us a holiday, then you took it away from some of us.
You and us.
But having conducted this process that you were talking about, President, being humbled and uplifted and hearing the criticism from the people, what is your assessment of your government? What is your assessment of the performance of your government? And would you, if you were a normal citizen like me, would you vote for the ANC again, given the failures that you've just spoken about? And can I squeeze in one last one?
One question at a time.
Okay.
And you did not introduce yourself, bro?
Oh, sorry, my apologies. My name is Sibonga Wonke from the Sunday Times.
Thank you, Shoba. We will then pause there. After that, I'll come to News 24 as well as Eyewitness. And yeah, over to you, President.
Let me start with the last one. Having heard you were saying we've received this review with humility, and we're very pleased that our people had an opportunity to assess our performance in relation to the manifesto's implementation. Would I vote for the ANC? Of course I would. You must expect that I would. There have been, yes, successes. And sometimes, you know, when we do these assessments, we don't talk about areas where there's been positive outcomes. And I guess for yourselves as the media, you always want to focus on the negatives. There have been successes, areas where the successes have been noticed by our people and have said, we're grateful, we're happy that you've done A, B, C, D. And that does not mean there haven't been weaknesses. That does not mean there haven't been failures. Because in life, it never happens that you get everything A. There will be areas where there are weaknesses, there will be areas where there are failures. But on balance, when you weigh up everything, we are finding that there have been more breakthroughs, more successes. When we launched the manifesto, we actually said, yes, there have been successes in a number of areas, and there's work in progress in many more, which would, in color terms, be categorized as yellow, and the others would be green, and the others would be red, where there's work not having been done. And as we count, and I'm not going to count all this for you, we have found that there has been enormous achievement and progress. Even if you don't look at it from, you know, just a 5-year period, you look at it from a 30-year period. I was reading a column by Stephen Friedman, who is one of the leading analysts in the country, and he was saying, those who say that there hasn't been progress in South Africa are simply not telling the truth. And that is the reality. Has there been weaknesses? Yes. And we admit that. We testify to that. Have there been failures? Yes, there have been. But the successes, the progress far outweighs areas where there has been weaknesses. And when you look at some of the challenges that we've had just in the past 5 years, COVID, floods, unrest, load shedding, logistics, and if you look at that, the common thread that runs through it all is that the government has been responding to each one. Unemployment, the unemployment levels, well, the economy first. The economy has gone back to pre-COVID levels. Unemployment has gone back to pre-COVID levels. We lost, officially we say we lost 2 million jobs. But in reality, we did lose more than 2 million jobs during COVID. And many countries around the world are still trying to recover from that COVID damage. What have we been doing? We've been working throughout this period to restore the jobs. We've created 1,200 opportunities. If you go to our schools today, there's not even a single school where you will go to where either teachers, students, parents will not applaud the way in which we've brought young people into schools to assist in schools, administrations, delivery of the curriculum, and they're just overjoyed. We've got 25,000 schools, and we've infused well over 800,000 people in those areas. In agriculture, we have, for the first time in a long time, given people capability to farm, seeds, fertilizers, and that has impacted on the lives of more than 40,000 people. When you look at, for instance, education, to have risen from 60,000 that we assisted in 1994 today to 800,000. Nzimande actually says, President, it's more than that. It's 1.2 million. And I say, I'll stick to 800,000 because we're paying out 48 billion rand a year to support the education of our young people. Many of our schools no longer pay fees. No fee schools. When I went to school, my parents paid fees. In other countries, as I talk to other presidents, they say, yes, they still have to pay fees. We now have no fee schools. Healthcare is another area. The number of clinics that have been built throughout are huge. Now, of course, we're dealing now with the problem of potholes. They're potholes because, yes, infrastructure, we've seen a decline in investment in infrastructure. The gross capital fixed investment has been sliding down from both the private sector side and the public sector side, and we're trying to reboost that. And one of the things that I think has set us now on a course of better delivery and addressing the needs of our people is now to have come up with, if you listen to the medium-term policy budget statement, you should have read the line where the minister has said, we will now be embarking on funding mechanisms, innovative and new funding mechanisms to fund projects and infrastructure, where we are going to work more closely with the private sector. Our fiscus, our budget, 60% of it is for social welfare, which leaves you with 40% for real investment, even less than that, into the economy. We've had to come up with new, innovative funding mechanisms to be able to fund social infrastructure, to build the roads, to build more hospitals, more clinics, more universities, and more houses. I referred in my general input to just Northern Cape. And when you look at it, you say, if we don't come up with a new funding mechanism, they're going to wait for 50 years until we get rid of our informal settlements. But now we've embarked on a new funding mechanism, which is going to enable Zamani Sol to launch a 1 billion rand housing project next year in January, because we now have a new funding mechanism. If we didn't have that, we would have waited. Where has this funding mechanism come? it has come out of discussions, change of approach, change of doing things, and making sure that we do indeed begin the process of getting things to change around. Now, would I vote for the ANC with that in mind? Yes, I would. Because I would say your experience as the ANC, where you've made mistakes, where you've hit some issues very, very on the mark, tells me that you have learned a lot of lessons along the way. You are now going to be able to correct a number of things. I also spoke about unspent budgets. Realize that there's something like up to 20 billion rand that goes unspent. We now say we're focusing on that. No entity must say we couldn't spend the money because we didn't have capacity, we didn't have the wherewithal, and there's somebody who was rigging the procurement process. We're correcting that. So we're streamlining all these things, and that's what gives me a great deal of hope that we are going to turn this ship around, and we are turning it around. A good example, a very good example, is just the Hammanskraal issue. 12 years, nothing has moved, largely because it's been a sole responsibility of the local government. And we say, no, we're changing that. National is now going to intervene. We're going to intervene, we're going to change things, and that's exactly what we're doing now. We're redirecting the way the budget has been structured, and we are going to intervene directly ourselves. The creation of 1.2 million job opportunities, national, has been intervening and saying this is how we are going to do it, rather than just leave it, with various structures and not much gets done. So I would vote for the ANC for that, and that gives me a great deal of comfort. News 24, are you happy with... Oh dear, I wrote something, I can't read it myself. Oh yes, Minister's performance. Performance across the board has been improving, notwithstanding the challenges. And I have seen my ministers improving the various areas where they have been deployed. We started off by saying we want those performance agreements, and then I said I want to meet you all so that we focus on your priorities, and we've done that. And I'm meeting them again and say I want to see what progress has been made. And it is interesting that each time we meet, new issues come up. For instance, we looked at the Ministry of Labour, and we said we were able to navigate our way through COVID by deploying 70 billion, was it 70? Yes, 70 billion rand to show up those who either lost their jobs or had job processes where their work stopped or stalled. We were able to support those. But one of the remits of the Department of Labour and Employment is to have labour activation processes. And we've looked at that and said, we need to be creating more and more job opportunities for our people. We have the resource, and we can redirect and make sure that we create more job opportunities. That's precisely what we're doing. And I do that on engagement with the ministers. Some of it may not be seen in an overt way, but this machine is continuing to work to address the needs of our people, to address them. And as we do that, when it comes to water, when it comes to roads, when it comes, for instance, to the logistics issue, which you cited as well, broken down, being repaired. The roadmap that we've put in place is doing precisely that. So a lot is being done, even by the ministers, to reposition many of the things that we're doing. You then say the SG was complaining about the veterans that they must stop decampaigning the ANC. the SG raises this issue because it's an important one. It's very important. We've been saying we're a party that should have one message, and we should have as many people as possible to articulate that message. And there must be unity of purpose. I am the first to have said to the National Executive, let us have unity of purpose and let us unify the message that we beam out to our people so that we don't confuse them. Our people should not be confused by what we articulate. And am I happy about how the spat has been handled? Yesterday there was a statement that came out where Comrade Mavuso Msimang said he's withdrawing his resignation, and the SG also issued a statement saying that he apologizes for what he said, to the extent that it could have been seen as being insulting, undermining. And these things happen in organizations. That is now behind us. We're moving forward together as various components of the ANC, Veterans League, the Women's League, the Youth League, and all of us. We're moving forward as one movement, facing the 2024 elections. And that is why we're speaking with great deal of confidence. Confidence that is born out of what is happening in our various organizations. We are allied to a number of organizations that are throwing their weight behind the ANC, COSATU, the SACP, and indeed the various leagues in the organization. All of us are going to work for the victory of the ANC. And it is for that reason that we say there must be unity of purpose. There shouldn't be those who pull aside and who pull this way. There was then a question about the research, that the young people are concerned about the government's performance or the party's performance. Yes, and they're free to articulate that. But we are saying, having articulated that, we would like those who are concerned about it to look very closely at what the ANC is doing. Part of this review process was to get us to focus more on improving the service delivery, on improving what we do for our people. So in our view, much as one hears that young people are discouraged about the performance of government and they're disillusioned, the way we are reaching out to them is to say, hey, look again. This is an organization that has experience. This is an organization that has proven that it can correct itself. No organization in the world, political party or otherwise, is perfect. If you're looking for perfection, you will not find it in any political party. That I promise you. And the ANC has never claimed to be perfect. But an ANC has claimed to be a party that strives with all that it can to serve the people of our country and to reach levels of good performance and excellence. This is where we are now. We are correcting things that went wrong in the past. We are addressing even challenges that are objective challenges that we have had to confront. We are not standing still. We are not at a standstill point. We are addressing this. This is how we intend, as you ended your question, to address the challenges of young people. We are very pleased that many more young people have been registering now as like first-time voters. We've seen a real good rise. And the rise in levels of registration is largely because they are also seeing how the ANC is articulating the aspirations of young people, the hopes of young people, and the challenges it faces. Just at this manifesto review, we had a number of young people, few, I admit, but there are many more who are seeing how their lives are changing, who now have the opportunity to get into skills that we never thought black young people would ever get into. Just speaking to some of these young people, and I asked them, what do you do? He says, I'm an aviation mechanic. What do you repair? I repair the engines of aircraft. But what size? And then they say, no, I repair the engines of a Boeing 800, a Boeing 400. And I say, do you rip that engine apart? They say, yes. I do that. I inspect them. I put them all together. I promise you, 1994, no single black person was ever given that opportunity. Not a single one. Let alone being a pilot. You go to pilot schools today, you'll find that more and more of the people who are registering as would-be pilots are black young South Africans. And this to me is heartening because it shows that we are moving, we are changing. And as I said in the input there, 1994 we had one black African actuary, and that is a very difficult course. Today we have more than 130 or so qualified black actuaries. So that is change. And we need to see more and more of that happening in every endeavor of South African life. There has been forward movement. Even the potholes are being repaired today. You go to the various roads in our country, there are problems, there are challenges. Local government continues to be a big challenge, but we're shining a light on local government, correcting precisely what is going wrong. Some of it is continuing, but some of it we are going to keep on changing. So we are a country on the move. We are a country that is transforming, that is changing, that is improving itself, including the African National Congress. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
That is our cue to wrap it up. I'm going to take the last set of hands that had been up. I see that there's a new forest of hands. So I'm going to suggest that we keep it very succinct, and so that the President can then take care of those. We'll just indulge members of the media, since you've forgone your holiday, and just take a very quick second round, President, with your permission. I think you're being punished here. So I'll start with my colleague over there, and then followed by or we'll go to Newsroom Africa, and then it will be Eyewitness News. May I ask the technical team to sort out the sound, but you can proceed and you can just amplify your voice.
Just to say thank you for the opportunity, much appreciated. 1, 2. Yes, I just want to start with a quick observation, President. And it's a comment. If you want to respond, it's okay. Your language, you speak about encouraging ministers. You know, shouldn't you be using much stronger language? Isn't it perhaps part of the problem that we have these stubborn weaknesses that refuse to go away? That the kind of language that we use is sort of kid gloves language. Shouldn't we insist and demand that people comply? I'm certain the SG will have used the stronger term. Perhaps that's why he always apologizes, but... And then to my question, on the issue of decampaigning the ANC, you'd be shocked, Mr. President, some of the things that we hear when we engage with the veterans of the movement. Some will even speak of wanting the ANC to be voted out of power, that the party must first collapse before it could be built up again. Nicely so, these views are expressed within closed rooms. But if such views were to permeate, in the public, how will the ANC respond, and how would you deal with those type of people who make such comments at the level of discipline and at the level of, uniting the party and having one message, as you said? Thanks.
You did not introduce yourself, my brother.
It's Situmo Stone from Sunday World.
Thank you, Stone. Newsroom.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Junior Komalo from Newsroom Africa. Just to build on what my colleague has just asked right now. Mr. President, you spoke about how this review process was an opportunity for the party to basically demonstrate that it's renewing itself. But one would say that internally there are individuals, especially veterans, who are not buying that message themselves. Even tomorrow, your predecessor is said to be basically detailing his political future. We just got confirmation from the foundation saying this is definitely happening. So how should South Africans believe that the ANC is definitely renewing itself when internally its own former president doesn't seem to be buying that message? Thank you.
Thank you. Tsidi Madia, Eyewitness News. Can I just very quickly say, we actually do enjoy telling good news stories, Mr. President. Believe it or not, it's not all bad news. I think members of the media also want to see the country succeed. Just to continue on this issue of the veterans, on the one hand, you might have former President Jacob Zuma and whatever happens tomorrow. But on the other hand, you've got former President Thabo Mbeki. I mean, I sat with him in Conakry, and he said to me he does not see himself campaigning for the ANC. I remember the ANC saying it will speak to the president. Have you had a chance to engage your former presidents? And the damage that could possibly be done from seeing former leaders of the ANC, supposedly, to use Mbak's words, decampaigning the party. Continuing on the track record, I don't want to take too long. I don't recall a time where I've seen the ANC so hard-pressed to show what it's done since the dawn of democracy. The language I observe lately is, yes, we've built houses. Yes, it's almost like there's this desperation to get people to continue to believe that the ANC is capable. What does that say about the ANC of today, where you are hard-pressed everywhere I turn? There's almost a desperation to force people to see that you've done something in government and things that you ought to be doing as government. Just your reaction to that. Can I ask a quick last one? Your sense of the polls. The polls, for multiple reasons, have been saying a lot of things.
I did ask for
I'm
one
done.
question.
I am rapping. I am done. Says Matlingi. I apologize. Just your sense of the polls. By and large, the polls are seeing a negative as far as the ANC is concerned. I have my own view about where some of them come from, but your sense of them. Thank you. I'm done. I'm done. Sorry.
Thank you very much. I think let's combine the last two hands. And I'm only going to note the ones that came early. No, not new hands. It was just a second round, quick one, so that the president can then respond comprehensively. And then we can let you go, colleagues, and also allow our officials to also depart. Moloko?
Thank you. Moloko Mloto again from ANC. Mr. President, you alluded to the statement which was issued yesterday regarding Mr. Mavuso's episode. But there was a line there in that statement that indicated that there was an agreement that those whose names who were implicated in the Zondo Commission of Inquiry and have had their names not cleared by other processes will not be part of the list of those who will be going to Parliament. And I'm thinking there are several people who are in your National Executive Council, either as ministers or cabinet ministers. Some are officials. Are those people going to be among those who would be excluded?
Thank you very much. A very quick one, Zwai, and then to be my brother over there, who's the last person to speak. Shoba, you had a second bite. All right, but I won't take new hands, colleagues. Let's keep it quick,
okay.
Colleagues.
Okay, thanks again, Mr. President. Just going on on what my colleagues have been saying, I think one of the things we've been hearing, particularly from the veterans, is that it's very, very difficult to engage with the leadership of the ANC. The reason why some of them end up speaking outside, it's because they don't get afforded the opportunity. Because we do ask them, I mean, you're part of the ANC and you are seniors. Surely, once you raise your hand, the leadership will obviously jump. But they feel that door is really not open. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yes, your hand was up.
Yeah. Thank you so much. My name is Khawelo Magolero. I'm with Newsnote and UFM. Thank you for the opportunity. Mr. President, how did it come to a point where the ANC has assumed the space of somewhat of an interest group in a country where it's governing? I understand when Mr. Malachi there or any of the leagues would sit on the fence and say, we want Pravin to go, we want this to be done, and so on. But when is the party's own SG or even headlines such as Ramaphosa wants an end to GBV, it's as if now you are yourselves as government, you are a pressure group, you are calling for solutions to come from elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We then end it off with Sunday Times.
Yes. So mine is linked to Tidima Dia's question about the polls. President, your approval rating, the latest polls show that your approval rating has declined. What would you think? What will you attribute this to? And going forward, how do you then go back to those people who no longer see you as a first choice to then say, I can improve, or you explain yourself wherever you went wrong?
Thank you very much. I am going to now hand over to the President to wrap it up. We are looking forward to your input, City Press, just in terms of some of the things that you have raised with us. But you are early for the next media engagement session. Over to you, President.
Thank you very much, Matlingi. Some of you, in saying who you are, you talk so quickly and you swallow your syllables that I don't pick them all up. But let me refer to some of the issues that some of you have raised. Situmo says, I encourage, you want me to bang tables and kick people in their behinds and knock their heads in tables or walls and all that. It's nomenclature. You can be dramatic, but you need to make sure that the message gets through, to get people to react in the way that they should. Demand, insist, and encourage. In my view, it's actually saying, we want you must do the work. What is often pleasing with in the media is that people are fired. Fire so and so because they forgot to water their plant, or they forgot to do this, or they didn't do that. There are a variety of ways of articulating issues and managing people and leading with people and getting things done. So different takes for different strokes for different people. And I have a team of colleagues that I work with who are doing work, continue to do work, and I'm pleased with the way that work is being done in government, because we're dealing with a different set of problems and challenges, and I'll enumerate a little bit on some of those. And you talk about veterans, who you talk to, maybe on the quiet, and you say, some of them say things that they don't want to say in public. They also decampaign the ANC and even say, we wish the ANC could lose so that it can come back in a much stronger way. Well, I haven't heard that. But in the end, it's not according to their wishes or whoever. It is the people of South Africa who are going to decide. They are the final arbiter. They are the ones who, in next year's election, will make that choice, who will be able to say, we have confidence and belief in this political organization and this leader, and we want that party and that leader to take us forward. So that is the confidence that I have, and it's got to be left to those people. And it comes down to what you also said, maybe before I get to Tsidi, or maybe get to Tsidi. I'm glad to hear that you do report on good news. And there's a lot of good news that needs to be reported. But similarly, where there are missteps, we say, yes, they should be reported, because that is your job as journalists. That is your craft. You should be able to do that. And we are glad. I'm eternally glad that we live in a country where the media, the journalists, have the freedom to be able to report, to write, to speak out. It does not happen in other regimes, in other locales. It doesn't happen. You criticize, you are in jail. Here, we will make sure that those doors of jail are closed so that you never get there, because you must be able to articulate, as a journalist, what you need to. But what I often say, Tsidi, let us also find balance. And find balance. What we've often seen is what you say you do tell good stories. We don't often see them. But there are good stories that need to be told. The story that this government feeds every day for 5 days of a week 9 million children. And in many cases, 2 meals a day. It's a story that does not sort of happen in many other countries. And that is a good story to tell. And of course, as part of that, you could then raise that, okay, in other cases, there were mishaps, that it did not work as well as it did. We wrote about it with a view of correcting it, of making sure that it happens properly, and that they heed what needs to happen properly. So I'd like to hear more of those good type of stories, Tsidi. You mentioned the polls. There's a new industry that has emerged in our country now. It's a new industry and it's always the ANC is going down. The ANC is going to be less than 30%. And it's almost reported with glee that, we've got them now. They're going to go down. Everybody, is now forming a poll group. They go around the country. One sees these polls. Polls have sometimes been completely off the mark. And I go on one poll of feeling the pulse of our people. That's the poll that I go with. When I go into a township, into an area, I actually tell my comrades that I even want to go to places where people may not even want to see me. I'll go there and engage with them, because that for me is feeling that pulse of our people, so that they even have an opportunity to articulate their views, their anger. The more they are angry, the more I want to go to engage them, because that to me is feeling their pulse. So one notes these polls, and you also raised, who raised it? I think my brother from Sunday Times, the rating, president's rating has gone down. I mean, these things happen, and it depends on who is looking at it. And I think for me it's important to engage with people directly and be able to have a sense of what are the shortcomings of government and the shortcomings of what they expect from their leaders. And that is where that's the gauge I use. That's the rating I used of touching the pulse of our people in that way. Kumalo from Newsroom. Some veterans are not buying the renewal project, and we've got former President Jacob Zuma who's going to make an announcement. And he has, over time, been making a number of announcements. So tomorrow he'll make another announcement. I mean, we will note that. We note that. And what else can I do? There's nothing else I can do but to note. Similarly, the former president, who you say says is not going to see himself campaigning, I think in the end, we're making a big issue out of this, much larger than what it should be. In the end, you know, as members of the ANC, we would like everyone to be in the field, to campaign, but if you are not able to campaign, you know, that's it. The work goes on, and we will continue doing the work. And I have said very, very vocally and openly, I am going to be in the campaign. I'm going to be in every street, in every village. That is what I am going to do. And obviously, we would like as many as possible. Were you the one, or was it TD, who was saying that it seems like the ANC is hard-pressed, or somebody else said that? Yeah, it was you. It seems like we're hard-pressed to try and convince people about what we've done. No, my dear sister. This is 30 years. We're looking at a 30-year review. Any organization would like to look at what have we done over the 30-year period. What is it we've done? And please don't tire with our articulation of this. We are going to be looking at everything that has happened over the 30-year period. In fact, when it comes to that, we were also led and nudged in that direction by Stats SA, because Stats SA has also looked at 30 years. So we are not going to ignore looking at where South Africa was 30 years ago. This is the anniversary. And in case you think that we are like trying to stretch and what did you say, we're desperate. We are not desperate. We are looking at how we've performed over 30 years, but we are also looking at, against the challenges that are faced by many countries around the world, what is it that we have done to show up our people, to support our people during these challenges? And it's not desperation, it's trying to state the reality, where we say, when COVID hit, we lost more than 2 million jobs. And by and large, those 2 million jobs have been recreated. And I've been asking my people to do an analysis, which jobs are regained and which jobs are new. And for the first time in our country, we've been able to have a job regaining creation number which has come up to 2 million. For the first time. Quite often it's just been 350 a year, 500 a year, and so forth. But now we've really ramped up. And it is something that we should talk about. It's not being desperate. It is stating fact and reality. And I don't think it's fair to reduce it to saying, oh, you are so desperate. You are being hard-pressed to say what you have achieved. Of course, we must also be proud to have made many advances in 30 years. I'm not going to sit by and say, no, we haven't done anything in 30 years. In 30 years, we've given up to 93% of South Africans electricity. And when I travel around the continent, I see how electricity has not penetrated in a number of countries. I smile with pride, and I say, hey, what? We have achieved. As I fly at night over our continent, and I look and see big cities not being well lit, and I fly over Johannesburg, Tshwane, Cape Town, Port Elizabeth, and I see lights, and I say, that means that we've spread a basic need like electricity. And that is one of the successes that we must talk about and that I am going to talk about. When I go to that village near Jozini Dam, where we put up this huge dam, and it was put up just for white farmers, for decades, and black people went to the river to draw water. But when I get there and I see Ubaba Velase, and I literally go and test the tap, and I say, it's got water. And I say, when did this happen? He tells me, that is success. That is success that I will talk about, that we must talk about, because that has changed the lives of the people. When I see ECD centers being spread around the country, where early childhood development is a new direct focus of this government, I will talk about it. That in 1994, we just had little creches, not even all over. We now have ECD centers. We are training the teachers. We are training those people so that the young people must get an education as we go up. So those are some of the successes that we must talk about. When I see the HIV levels coming down and more people getting antiretrovirals, I'll talk about it, because that's a success. When I see that our life expectancy has also been rising over years, I'll talk about it, because that is success. So when I see more and more South Africans being banked, having bank accounts, so that when we pay the 350, we paid to 11 million people, all at one go like that, which many countries cannot be boastful of. It fills me with joy that we are making progress. Making progress. In some areas, there will be reversals. So, Tidi, it's not being desperate. It's being practical and being factual, because that is the progress that we have made. Now, or whatever, or the names of those who were listed by Zondo, that is a matter that is being processed by the ANC. That is being processed. There are going to be disciplinary processes that will ensue, and I'd like to say, let's allow that process to go on. This is now the internal renewal process in the ANC that is going to address all these issues. Mzwai, you also asked a question. Some leaders feel they don't. Saying it wrongly. Oh, no. I see that. The space is open. It's wide open for leaders to talk to various leaders in the ANC, including myself, including the top 7, including people who are in the NWC. Sometimes people will say, no, we have not been able to talk to this one or that one. Sometimes it's a timetable thing. I was supposed to see the General Secretary of the Communist Party for the last week. We have not been able to connect. So I'm open. I saw the leadership of COSATU, saw the leadership of the veterans, and we continue to do that. So there is just that continuous level of engagement and cooperation. The next question was, we seem to act like an interest group. For instance, you cite the question, Ramaphosa says he wants gender-based violence to end. So from that point of view, we act like an interest group. And of course, we are spreading the message. I mean, one says all that. Of course, I will say I want gender-based violence to end, because I want more and more leaders to talk about gender-based violence. All of us must be able to say, we want gender-based violence to end. And we also, and this is where I would like you to talk more positively about, for instance, the men's dialogues. We're having lots of men's dialogues, and where we're getting men to talk about gender-based violence. And we're taking action to ensure that gender-based violence becomes a topical issue. More and more leaders must talk about it. And we want men to meet amongst themselves and talk about, talk against gender-based violence, raping women, and all that. Is there any other way I can say it? Yes. Am I taking action to bring gender-based violence to end? Yes, because we've passed laws, we've budgeted money, we've embraced the National Strategic Plan, we're setting up the various structures. That is what we're doing practically. What else are we doing? We're going out there engaging people, communities, and men about gender-based violence. So all these things we are engaging on. And even as you look at a number of the questions that you pose, progress is being made, my compatriots. We are making progress on a number of fronts. Are we doing enough? Of course, we want to do more and more. And some of these things we're doing against the backdrop of the challenges that we have faced. And we are brave enough to say we will address those challenges. COVID was a major one. The unrest was another one. The floods was another one that set us back. We are addressing them. Load shedding, we are addressing. Logistics, we are addressing. And working with business and working with various stakeholders. And all those matters are being addressed. Are they being addressed quickly and fast enough? Sometimes, yes, quickly, sometimes there are delays. We had a meeting recently with the Black Business Council, and we're setting up work streams where we are going to work together to address some of the challenges that they raised. We've met with big business, and we've set up working streams, and many of the things that we've decided to work on are being done, some slowly and some fast enough. So that's how the whole process evolves. And I'm glad that progress is being made. I want to end by saying initially we thought we would have this social compact, a comprehensive compact. What it has evolved now is to say what is more practical, as I've said before, is to have these compacts which will in the end mutate into a much bigger comprehensive compact. And maybe we were a bit too early in our iteration of that, but right now the engagement between business and government and labor is a much more fruitful one. It is yielding much better results than the initial thought we had that we would just have a compact and we would have glossed over a number of important issues. Now we've crunched down, we're dealing with the real issues that need to be addressed. So take heart. Things are happening. We're moving forward. We're addressing the challenges and we're addressing the problems. And we are not the only country that is going through challenges. There are many others, but we are doing the best we can. Thank you very much.
Colleagues, I do wish to thank you, but also just for the benefit of our media colleagues who are joining us for the first time in these media engagements, that we want to have as conversational as possible with the president of the organization, that the intention is to keep them conversational. The intention is to also put out our president out there to also communicate the message of the organization, and that is exactly what I believe was accomplished today. But also that the president himself has the opportunity to ask his own questions of members of the media. Unfortunately, he didn't have a chance to do that today. So next time, he will have more time to ask his own questions. Next time, you'd also come in and just say, I don't have a script. Let's talk about anything and anything under the sun. Of course, within the right parameters. So it is our strive as the African National Congress to communicate as coherently and as frequently as possible with our colleagues in the media, because we require this relationship. You are our clients. It's important that you always have the right content, the right message, the accurate one, from the African National Congress, and therefore we don't want any vacuum to be created. I do wish at this point then President and our national officials, together with the presidents of all three of them, of our leagues, and this is just tell you about the amount of unified approach that we are as this ANC. I do wish to thank members of the media and do on behalf of the President wish and the ANC wish everybody a blessed and a festive season whilst we rest, and to reconnect in the build-up activities to Mbombela, and we look forward to seeing you there for the January 8th statement. And maybe the President do wish to, bid you a good farewell for 2023.
I don't often want to accuse the Secretary General in public, but I do want to accuse him for having messed up your holiday. Because he also messed up mine. This is the one day that I look forward to be resting at home and reflecting on the victory of the Springboks, and he has messed it up. So I blame him. In fact, I feel like having a press conference to attack him.
We are adjourned, members of the media. Thank you very much. See you in jail.